Thank you, Gawain and Sabrina. Our next two presenters come from Australia. Now, in case you missed the news, in its latest Better Life Index, OECD just ranked Australia the world's happiest nation for a third year. So let me introduce our two speakers. Cathie JILOVSKY is Chief Information Officer at Cavell Limited and Australia Library Consortium. As Chief Information Officer, she leads Cavell's information technology team and the business units that provide hosting, installation, support, and help desk services for client libraries. Michael Robinson, a lot of you know already, took up the position of Chief Executive Officer at Cavell in September 2012. Prior to this, he was Institute Librarian at the Hong Kong Institute of Education, where he introduced a range of innovative products and services. On a happy note, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Michael on earning his Doctor of Education from University of Bristol. So, Dr. Michael Robinson, please.
Thank you very much. 大家好，我好開心返到香港。I always play for the cheap laugh. I hope I hope what I actually just said is that I'm very, very happy to be back in Hong Kong once again. And if I've insulted anybody's family members, my apologies. I guess one of the things that actually it is a great thrill, in fact, to be back here. And one of the bonuses for me of participating in this conference is the personal one of being able to catch up with so many friends and colleagues from when I was here in Hong Kong. Just to reference back to Peter's presentation, I think I am number 6. I can't quite remember. And, pardon me, the irony isn't actually lost on me that I've actually gone from a job where I was involved in the planning of Jura into a job where I'm actually responsible for the management of 2 shared print repositories already. So yes, Peter, I do wish you luck. And also, if any time during the presentation, if I actually mix up JULAC and Cavell and stuff, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? This presentation is actually going to be a joint presentation, as Rachel said, between myself and Cathie JILOVSKY. I've got the easy part. All I need to do is to talk to you a little bit about Cavell, what it actually is, and how we actually support libraries in Australia. And then Cathie will move on to the meat of the presentation and talk about CARM1 and CARM2, the 2 storage facilities that we have. I guess I should really just get it out of the way to begin with and say CARM actually stands for the Cavell Archival and Research Materials Store. Okay, so now you know. To talk first a little bit about Cavell, Cavell is basically a not-for-profit, or as I prefer to say, a for-benefit company, which was originally established by the Universities of Victoria, Australia, in 1978, I guess to facilitate and coordinate activities amongst the member Victorian academic libraries for their mutual benefit. Another acronym, and as Dr. Butler said yesterday, the British have a passion for acronyms, and so do we in Australia. Cavell stands, or did stand originally, for Cooperative Action for Victorian Academic Libraries. So again, now you know. In fact, the Cavell name, or the brand, is very, very well known these days amongst academic and public libraries in Australia, and we are now beyond Victoria. We're more national in scope, and we prefer or tend not to use the full title. While Cavell's focus was originally on the development and management of those cooperative programs, it has also since evolved over the years into a library utility, if I can put it like that, which provides a range of products and services on a commercial basis right across the Australia and New Zealand region. Consequently, and I may be beating the whole yin and yang theme to death a little bit here, but there is a certain yin and yang also in the composition of Cavell itself. It's a very different sort of cooperative to the ones that were being discussed, shall we say, yesterday morning, and some of the ones that we're talking about today. Because on the one hand, it strives to actually introduce programs which are of benefit to our members, and on the other, it actually is subject to the usual commercial imperatives of needing to make money from a number of the commercial activities that it actually provides. I feel that I needed to actually have a shot of the building, but after seeing the previous shot of all of the storage facilities in Canada, all I'm afraid I can show you is the front door, and that's it. Cathie's got more exciting photos of the storage facilities in a minute, so I've left that for her. Cavell and the CARM stores are actually located on the Research and Technology Park of La Trobe University again in Victoria. And it's essentially a purpose-built building because of the environmental conditions that are required, of course, for the long-term storage and preservation of materials. Library storage is not actually the only thing that we do, and this is a list of a range of the services that we actually provide to libraries in different capacities. It includes, in addition to the library storage, the cataloguing and shelf-ready processing of materials, particularly language other than English materials. We specialise in providing non-English materials for particularly the public library sector in Australia, and we also not only catalogue and process those, but we also acquire and distribute those on behalf of many of the library systems in the country. So we catalogue in over 80 languages, and we distribute in over 50 of those. We also have another business in the digitising of materials, and in particular we specialise in the bound volume digitising theses, dissertations, bound serials and so on. We market document delivery software and also manage those services on behalf of a number of Australian libraries, and in particular we're the agent for the Relay, the Canadian product, the Relay Interlibrary Loan and Relay D2D products, which is in fact an alternative type of product to the innovative InReach product that Peter talked about earlier this morning. We run statistical packages, and we're responsible for the management of the national data set for CALL, the Council of Australian University Libraries, and we're also the sole agent for a range of book sorting, book automated dispensing and security equipment from MK Systems in Germany. I should also add that we do run a number of training programs, including an executive leadership program which we just completed, which was very, very similar in conception to the one that Steve actually talked about that operated here in Hong Kong over the last couple of years. And finally, we also leverage the considerable expertise and experience of our management team and our staff to offer consultancies on an ad hoc basis to libraries as they come up. In terms of the 35 years that Cavell's been operated, there have actually been a number of sort of key developments, and you can see we established in 78. Our first program was reciprocal borrowing in 1979, but I think of relevance here, pardon me, and of relevance also to the comment Peter made about Jura being a new era for Hong Kong libraries. I think in fact the development of the CARM centres, particularly in 1997, and then CARM2 in 2010, were really watershed moments for Cavell. I've talked a lot about the commercial activities, but in addition to those sorts of member programs that we operate, we also facilitate and manage a number of different committees, which are basically comprised of staff from each of our member libraries, and these are basically management committees, for example, for the CARM store, for the reciprocal borrowing program, but also interest groups covering areas such as digital services and resources, human resources, and the reference services as well. Our funding basically is a relatively simple model, although it gets very complicated when you get into it. The model consists of three different things. Substantially membership fees, which are designed to basically cover the core services and functions that Cavell offers. business levies, which we actually add on to those membership fees on a per usage basis by our members. So, for example, for the use of the CARM store, for the use of the reciprocal borrowing program and so on, and then fee-for-service commercial activities, which go at market rates, of course, unless you happen to be a member, in which case you're eligible for a discount. So that gives you a little bit of an idea, and happily I'm right on time, it gives you a bit of an idea of the way that Cavell is actually constructed, and some of the way that Cavell operates has also informed the type of storage facilities that we've actually put together, and Cathie's about to talk about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Likewise, I'm very happy to be here again. I was at the last conference 3 years ago, so it's great to come back and see the changes and the growth, but I'm going to talk pure Aussie. All right, well, I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about our CARM Centre. Sorry, let me just get myself organised here so that I can see. Start off, as Mike's already said, what we now call the CARM1 part of our CARM Centre, which we describe as a print repository, was completed and opened for business in 1996. In fact, the formal opening was in 1997. I realise that's why there's a discrepancy in those dates. Now, this facility at that time was funded by some government funding and some contributions from our member libraries at that time. And it was designed very much to operate on the most economically and environmentally appropriate way. So to achieve that, the decision was made that it would be a shared collection. So as part of that, the member libraries would deposit materials into the CARM1 building. They would cede ownership to the consortium, that is to Cavell themselves, so effectively they would share ownership of those materials. And it's interesting to look back at the documentation from that time. In fact, we allude to some of this in our written paper, that it certainly seems that at that time that was very much accepted, that was the very logical and the appropriate way to create a shared, not only a shared facility, but a shared collection. CARM1 itself has about 15 kilometres of shelving. It's just about full. The capacity of that is around about 1 million volumes. Yep, okay. Now, in order to achieve, whoops, what have we done there? Back to where I was supposed to be. As I said, it was really, the principle behind it was to create the most economically viable facility. And to do that, materials are shared or stored in high density. That is, they're sorted by size, boxed into specially designed trays and placed on the shelves, as you can see from the pictures here across. With the volumes, the backs of the volumes at right angles to the shelves. Very similar, I think, to one of your pictures from Canada. The picture on the left there just shows you where we've also adjusted the shelves so that it actually minimises the air capacity between the shelves. Thanks, Steve, for that idea. This diagram just shows the current allocation of, dearie me, I'm not reading here, it's because I've got the papers on top of the mouse. So I'm just going to move it out of the way because I don't want it. Over the, 16 or 17 years of the existence of the CARM shared collection, all of our member libraries except for 2 have participated. The actual the amounts of space that they have used has varied over time because we have allowed them to trade space. But this is the current there. And you will see that a couple of our larger university library members, particularly Monash University and the University of Melbourne, have a significant amount of that total space. So round about after 10 years of operation, round about 2006, we became aware that the facility was beginning to fill. Now initially, depositing materials into the space was quite slow. It did take the libraries a few years to, I guess, organise internal processes and procedures as to how they would select materials to be deposited into CARM and put those processes in place. But once the rate of fill started to happening, then we started to explore, as I said, around about 2006, as to what possibilities there were for expanding the facilities. It became very clear quite early on that the broader environment had changed in many ways, as it's been alluded to by a number of speakers already. Certainly the biggest thing that became apparent was there was now a reluctance to cede ownership. Particularly our larger universities really wanted to retain ownership to ensure that the sizes of their collections did not drop, and also there were some financial imperatives, is that the library collections are seen as assets for the universities, so therefore moving some of those assets away, even to a consortium that they were members of, was no longer acceptable. And of course within their libraries, like in all of your libraries, there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of re-envisaging of those library spaces, the development of cooperative student learning spaces, and of course technology-based learning commons. Nonetheless, several in particular of our large libraries really had a very urgent need for additional space. So we engaged a number of consultants to look at different business models. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail, but just while I've got the logos here, just to jump to further down the process, we went through the business model. We came up with some funding that was acceptable to 3 of our member libraries, and we then went forward with 3 capital partner libraries, being the University of Melbourne, Monash University and RMIT University. Now, I don't know whether you can read this from here, but this is just a summary of an option study that we did, which was looking at the choices for a university library with some of these issues to do with space and retention of collections into the future. And I guess having seen Peter's beautiful picture of the books piling up somewhere, and in economic terms you must always do this, that is the do nothing option, where basically things just build up and you've got a different sort of problem. And you can see from the list here that we tried to include all the appropriate options. So in making a decision as to which was the most cost effective and lowest risk way forward for each of our libraries, it was not just about the money, though that's obviously a part of it, also about what the preservation outcome would be and also what the risk level was be. So the conclusion was that what is shown as option 2 here is that by making a capital contribution to a shared storage facility, in fact provided the best economic outcomes at the lowest risk. And that's the model that we used for CARM2, and it was from that basis that we developed the business model to go forward. So I'm jumping through the details of the process of getting a building designed, getting funding, getting permits, all of that stuff. Let's just say we survived all of that. The building was construction, and there's just a couple of photos there showing the exterior of the CARM2 facility and also the shelving as it was, if you like, in a pristine, unused, new condition. We took on board our experience with CARM1 in designing CARM2. Not that CARM1 has not been successful, but over time there were a number of things that we did differently. One of them was allow shelves and doors and lift dimensions all to be much greater, because what we found over the years, in fact, there's been very interest and demand for our facility for collections other than print collections, so art and museum items, and we'd actually had to turn some items away in the past because they couldn't fit into our lift or through our doors. Now the CARM2 building, as I said, we've moved away from that shared collection, so this is now what we're calling, it's a shared storage facility. So each of those partner libraries have space within that facility in proportion to the capital contributions that they've made, but they retain ownership of those items deposited. The next one's just a schematic diagram. The CARM2 facility, I like to take it a step further. In CARM1 we shelve books by size, which for many of you are quite familiar with in terms of high density, but we actually have 4 blocks of shelving in CARM2, so we've introduced the colour element. So we've got a red, green, a yellow and a black block. And this just illustrates the proportions of space by those partner libraries. The blue there is space that is managed by Cavell. The funding that we got from the partner libraries was not sufficient to construct the entire facility, so we are leasing that space to other member libraries and other customers in order to bring in income, because the last part of the funding we have is a bank loan, so we do need to pay that back over time. In fact, we need to pay that back to be able to shelve the 4th quarter there, which is shown as the void, in probably 10 to 15 years' time. So as part of that CARM2 business model, we still offer the high density option, but we also came up with a medium density option. I don't know whether you can see it here, but effectively how this works is that items can be brought directly from the library shelves by a specialist removalist. They can be kept in Dewey or shelf order and deposited directly onto the CARM2 shelves. And the shelves are wider than normal library shelves, so as you can just see there, I think that there are 2 deep. Now I guess there are a couple of advantages of this for those libraries. One is certainly it's cheaper and quicker because there is no processing. So clearly when we put materials into high density, there is a processing fee to do that. So I guess two out of the 3 libraries opted to use the medium density model, and one of them has continued to use the high density into CARM2. The picture up the top shows Monash University's some of their items in CARM2 using the high density model. There's just a couple of other photos there. As I said, there's a void area, so that's actually almost full, ironically, having designed a facility for print volumes. The areas for non-print are fullest. There's, as you see, some artworks by the Ian Potter Museum, part of the University of Melbourne, one of our member libraries. And you can't quite see it there, but there's actually a collection from the Dental Museum. Not so nice close-up, actually. All right, now I realise I'm running out of time, so I'll just talk to the last couple of slides quite quickly. We've also now been doing some analysis and modelling of costs, and like a number of other speakers, refer very strongly to the work done by Paul Courant, which is certainly the full citations in our paper also. We can certainly show that the cost to store material for the longer term, by longer term I think 15 to 20 years, is certainly under $1 per volume per annum, considerably less than the $4.25 quoted for in-library storage. Just a few pictures of, I guess, some of the operational areas. Certainly as part of the CARM2 project, we upgraded our technology. We've made sure we've got wireless around the building, various sorts of mobile devices. I better get to the yin and the yang because that's what this is all about. So I guess really to pull this together, I've just summarised there, as I've gone through this paper, some of the differences between our shared collection and our shared storage, which coexist together in the one facility. So really both of these have different focuses and different business models, but nonetheless they really are interconnected and interdependent within the one storage facilities. Interestingly also, a number of libraries can and have taken up one or more options, so nothing here is mutually exclusive. Caval's role in this is to facilitate, I guess, the needs of our member libraries and to develop and to coordinate the facility in a way that meets the needs of our member libraries. In concluding, I would also like to acknowledge, in fact, we have a third author of this paper, Dr. Paul GENONI from Curtin University, who's done a lot of work with us over the years in collection comparisons and some of the analysis, again, that other people have looked at, and there's a little bit about that in our written paper. And I think I've probably run out of time. Thank you.